Hey, 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 it's story time with Miss J. Hey, 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 it's story time with Miss J. Let's get into our story for today. I think you're going to like it. Hey, everybody, we're back again for story time with Miss J. I'm excited to read another book about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I hope that you are excited to celebrate his birthday that's coming up because I sure am. Let's get started. I Am Martin Luther King Jr. by Brad Melzter, illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulous. I am Martin Luther King Jr. I'm Martin Luther King Jr. When I was little, I used to get into a lot of accidents. One day, my little brother hit me in the head with a baseball bat. 2 other times, I mistakenly got knocked over by a car. Another day, I tumbled over the banister, then bounced through an open door into the basement. No matter how many times I fell, though, I kept getting back up. Even before I could read, I knew that I liked books. My dad always talked about how I kept a lot of books around me. I used to tell my parents, when I grow up, I'm going to get me some big words. There is power in words. Big words were in my future. When I was 6 years old, one of my best friends was a boy whose father owned a store across the street. Tag, you're it. No, you're it. No, you are. My friend was white. I was black. It didn't matter to us, though. We would play games and have fun together. But when we started going to school, everything changed. He went to school where all the kids were white, and I went to school where everyone was black. Soon after, he told me, I can't play with you anymore. Why? My dad said so. He doesn't want us to be friends. But why? You're one of my best friends, aren't you? Aren't you? I didn't understand. It didn't make sense. At dinner, my parents explained, it's because you're black and he's white, they said. I was so mad that day. How could someone treat me differently just because of the color of my skin? I wanted to hate my friend and his father. But my parents told me to do the opposite, that I should love my friend even though he hurt me. They taught me that it's better to have more love in your life than more hate. Then my mother taught me one of the most important lessons of all. You are as good as anyone, she told me. You must never feel that you're less than anyone else. I wanted to believe it, but every day I saw the opposite. I saw that you could be treated unfairly just because of the color of your skin. If you were white, you went to a good school with great playgrounds and plenty of books. But if you were black, your school was small, sometimes with no desks or even windows. Check it out, a playground. Check it out. Where's our playground? It wasn't just the schools either. Black people had to use different water fountains, different elevators, and even different bathrooms. In fact, on a hot day, when everyone had ice cream, if you were white, you could sit at a counter and eat from a nice dish. But since I was black, if they served me at all, it was through a side window, and they put my ice cream in a flimsy paper cup. It got even worse when I was 14. I had just won a speech competition, and my speech was about being fair to all people. I was so excited. Then, on the bus ride home, a few white people got on board. You need to give up your seats to the whites, said the bus driver. At first, I stayed put. It didn't seem fair. but my teacher convinced me to move. We spent the rest of the day standing and getting tossed in every direction. It was the angriest I have ever been. Every day, this is what life was like. Black people were treated terribly. The only question was, what could I do about it? At the age of 15, I started college, and by 19, I became a minister and entered seminary school to study religion. Over those years, I read the words of Henry David Thoreau and Mahatma Gandhi. Thoreau taught me about civil disobedience, how an evil system can be changed without violence. Gandhi opened me to the mind power of nonviolent resistance. What's that? It's love. It's using love and peaceful methods to change unfair things in society. And it was a lesson I wanted to share with everybody. In no time at all, I got my chance. In Alabama, a Black woman named Rosa Parks was told to give up her bus seat to a white man. It was just like what happened to me. But unlike me, Miss Parks refused. Then she got arrested. Early the next morning, I got a phone call from a local community leader. It's time to take a stand. We should boycott the buses so everyone knows that we won't accept this treatment anymore. That's not going to be easy. It was just like Thoreau taught. Instead of using violence to protest unfair rules, Black people would use peaceful methods. We would not ride the public buses. Without our monies, the bus companies would go out of business. But the only question was, would it work? On the first day of the protest, my wife called to me out the window. The buses are empty. It's working. We had to keep it going. As head of the bus boycott, I gave one of the most important speeches of my life. The room was packed. Camera crews were filming. I only had 20 minutes to prepare. I didn't use notes, but by speaking from my heart, I found out how big words can be. We are determined here in Montgomery to work and fight until justice runs down like water and righteousness rises up like a mighty stream. When the history books are written in the future, somebody will have to say there lived a race of people, the Black people, who had the moral courage to stand up for their rights. And we did, and we do. The police put me in jail. They said I was breaking the law. Other people bombed my house. But instead of using my fists, I kept calm. For more than a full year, every Black person in the city, and some white people too, refused to ride the buses. Don't you want to fight back? I am a man of nonviolence, and I know that I do not stand alone. We are with you all the way, Reverend. If no one rides these buses, we'll go out of business. You're finally getting it, huh? It meant that some people had to walk for miles. But guess what? They kept going. They did not give up. There was power in standing together. Eventually, our peaceful protests worked, and the rules were changed. Public buses could no longer separate people based on the color of their skin. But that was only the beginning. Soon, our peaceful protests sparked other peaceful protests. At lunch counters, college students organized sit-ins where they would not stop until everyone could eat together. Our methods of nonviolence were so powerful, I was invited to meet with the president at the White House. But sometimes, my hardest problems were right at home. Daddy, look, an amusement park. Please, can we go? I'm sorry, Yoki, we can't. Funtown isn't open to Black people. Yoki looks so sad, and I would be so sad too. How would you feel if you realized you couldn't go somewhere just because of the color of your skin? Seeing my daughter cry was one of the most Seeing my daughter cry was one of the most painful moments of my life, but it only made me work harder for a change. Was it easy? Absolutely not. During one protest in Alabama, the police again arrested me and locked me in a dark cell that only had one window. Somebody slipped me a newspaper in which white religious leaders had written an article calling us lawbreakers. Then someone snuck me a pen. In that jail cell, I wrote my own response in the margins of the newspaper and even on toilet paper. It was the only paper I had. My letter from the Birmingham jail was soon published as a pamphlet. Then it was in magazines and newspapers. And today, guess what? It's read by millions of people. Like I said, it's amazing how big words can be. Our message was so important that even kids your age joined us. In Birmingham, during the Children's Crusade, more than 1,000 kids, sometimes as young as 6 years old, showed up to march. The first day, the police arrested 900 of them. But guess what? The next day, even more kids showed up. 2,500 children showed up, and they were ready to go to jail to show others what was right. This was our finest hour. Enraged that we were not giving up, the chief of police told the firemen to spray the children with water hose and attack them with dogs. They thought it would stop us, but instead, the whole country watched on TV what was being done to our children. It was a wake-up call for the nation's conscience. How can they treat little kids like that? That's not right. We have to help them. 90 days later, the rules began to change. Now, Black people and white people in Birmingham were using the same lunch counters, water fountains, and restrooms. You could feel it in the air. More change was coming. Freedom is contagious. By the summer of 1963, an estimated 1 million Americans held their own protests in cities across the country. A man named Philip A. Randolph suggested a massive march. If we march together peacefully, they won't be able to ignore us, he said. Together, we can convince Congress and the president to pass laws so no one in America can be treated differently based on their skin color. I like that idea, I said. Where should we have it? There's only one place, said Mr. Randolph. People came from almost every state. They came from nearly every form of transportation. They even took off work and didn't get paid just to be there. Old people, young people, Black people, white people, and even children just like you. They all came to Washington, D.C., gathering in a righteous army. Why? Because they wanted a change, and because they knew the surest way to change was to stand together. On August 28, 1963, I stood at a podium and spoke what later became my biggest words of all. I'm happy to join with you today on what will go down as history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream that one day little Black boys and little Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls and stand as brothers and sisters. Let freedom ring from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. After the March on Washington, the President and Congress passed new laws for civil rights, but that did not mean our work was done. Indeed, our greatest battle was still to come. It began with 600 activists as they tried to walk 54 miles from Selma, Alabama to the state capital of Montgomery. Back then, there were rules that stopped Black people from voting. If you wanted to change the laws, you have to be able to vote for new. If you want to change the laws, you have to be able to vote for new people to make the laws. We're marching to tell the governor, we're marching for voting rights. This brutality must end. No matter what, do not let them pass, said the police. The police had billy clubs and tear gas. They attacked our group and they knocked many people down. But as I learned long ago, you have to get back up. No matter how hard they hit us, we remained peaceful. Still, we didn't get through. 2 days later, we tried again. Now, there were 2,500 of us. We will get to Montgomery. No, you won't, said the police. I promise you won't. Once again, we tried. Once again, we did not get through. Do you think they gave up? Let's see. We didn't. It was Sunday, March 21st, 1965, our third try. And this time, we had 8,000 people with us. For 2 days we marched. Rain could not stop us. The world was watching. The White House was too. President Johnson even sent troops to protect us. Exhaustion could not stop us either. As we reached Montgomery, Alabama, tears were shed. But this time, they were tears of joy. We did not give up. In my life, people tried to tell me I wasn't as good as they were, just because of the color of my skin. When someone hurts you like that, it can be tempting to hurt them back. You must refuse. When someone shows you hate, you show them love. When someone shows you violence, you show them kindness. To reach our goals, we must walk the path of peace. We must lock arms with our brothers and sisters, and we must march together. When we do, our voices will be heard and freedom will ring. Remember the Funtown amusement park? Its doors eventually opened to Black people. Dr. King and his daughter Yogi got to go. Do you know that he was one of the youngest people to win the Nobel Peace Prize? He was 35 years old. He donated his prize money to the Civil Rights Movement. He said that the prize was the work of many unsung heroes. He fought against poverty too. There's even a national holiday for him. It's the third Monday of every January. Only Washington and Lincoln get a day like that. It's a day to remember how far we've come and how much more work there is to do. I am Martin Luther King Jr. I stand for peace. I stand for justice. I stand to help others. I stand as proof that no matter how hard the struggle, we must fight for what's right and work to change what is wrong. Whatever the struggle you face, no matter how hard it gets, you must always move forward. I am proof of this. If we rise up, if we stand together, if we remain united, nothing can stop our dream. The time is always right to do what is right. Thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King, for all you did and for sharing your dream with us. I am so excited that you came here to listen to a story about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I hope you have a good time celebrating his birthday. It's going to be a fabulous day. Come back soon to see what other stories are on the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope that you have a wonderful day and that you are fighting for what's right.